I was asked to speak on my life and the issues that I've been through that are lung-related. And if I'm going to talk about that, I guess the best thing for me to do is going to be to start at the very beginning. And if we're going to start at the very beginning, we might as well start here. This has nothing to do with my presentation. I just wanted to show you how cute I was as a baby. Okay, that actually does relate. Yes, I am a product of the 70s. You'll notice the hair. I was a bit of a rebel, 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. And what do rebels do? They rebel. And one of the things that I did in my late teens was I did like a lot of other kids, I started smoking. And it was obviously a really horrible habit, but I had no breathing problems whatsoever for that entire period. I was very, very athletic. I was a swimmer and a soccer player and climbed trees with the best of them. I cycled, did gymnastics, you know, very, very busy, and like I said, could hold my breath longer than pretty much anybody I knew of. However, I did eventually grow up, and as I reached into my late 20s and my early 30s, by now I had quit smoking, which was a very, very good thing. But as I found out later on, it really didn't matter. It was a little bit too late for me. In my late 20s and early 30s, I had a couple of things going on in my life. One, I had moved into medical sales. I was in the laboratory industry, and we were one of the companies that does all the blood testing. And when you go to the doctor and they say, we're going to draw some blood and send it to the lab, I worked for one of those labs. And I was doing very, very well for myself. I'd just been promoted to the corporate office, and I was, very pleased. Life was going along great. I had a wonderful family, a wife and a stepdaughter, and making a good living with money, and had a nice house in a beautiful neighborhood, and everything was good with the world, except I started having chest infections, and started having frequent chest infections, and I would always end up, rather than going to a regular doctor, I would be working so hard and so busy with everything else, I would go instead to one of those doc-in-the-box, the urgent care centers after hours or on the weekends. And that doctor would see me sick. He'd say, do you smoke? And I'd say, I used to. And they're going, yeah, well, we kind of expect to have some lingering issues. Here's an antibiotic. Here's something to help you cough up the mucus. Go home for a few days and you'll be fine. And that happened over and over and over again. And eventually, I started having problems when I wasn't sick. I started having issues when I was feeling well, and began to get short of breath, climbing flights of stairs and things like that, or carry something heavy and would breathe really, really heavy for a long time. I couldn't understand that. And I began to wonder, was it because I was living a sedentary life now? I was no longer in high school and college. I wasn't active in any sports whatsoever. I wasn't going to the gym. Maybe that was what was going on. Or maybe I was just getting older. I laugh now because I just turned 50 a couple of weeks ago, and I'm thinking of 29 as being old. But these are the kind of justifications that people with lung disease make in their mind. I'm not active, so of course I can't breathe well. I'm getting older, so of course I can't breathe well. Things like that mask lung disease. So anyone who's having a breathing problem should talk to a doctor about it, and talk to them very seriously. That's something that took me a very long time to do. I eventually asked myself, is this normal? And so I went to go see a doctor when I was well. And this particular physician I went to go see, I had the opportunity to go get a physical. And I had a full physical done. I was, I think, 32 years old at the time. And I went through the physical, and the doctor said, do you have any questions? And I said, yes, actually I do. I seem to be having these breathing issues. And he said, define issue. And I went, well, I can't seem to get a full breath of air in, and I can't seem to get a full breath of air out, and I've got this constriction feeling in my chest, this little pressure and this suffocation feeling a little bit every now and then. And he looked at me, and he asked me one question, very, very seriously. He said, do you buckle your seatbelt? And I said, yeah. Do you mind me asking why? And he says, well, you're 32 years old, you don't smoke, you take care of yourself, you eat right, you're in great shape. Statistics say that as long as you buckle your seatbelt, you're going to be fine. Well, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. So, knowing that I was well and had nothing wrong with me, because the doctor had now confirmed it, excuse me, I left his office very pleased with myself. And it was some period of time before I started realizing that those chronic chest colds hadn't gone away just because he told me I was well, and those stairs weren't any easier to climb. And so I went back to another doctor to get a second opinion. And this was to be my primary care doctor, Dr. Huggins, who remained my primary care doctor for about 10 years. And the first time I went in to see her, I told her I am here to talk about my breathing. And I explained what was going on with me, and she said, it sounds like some type of exercise-induced asthma to me. Let's try this albuterol inhaler. And it worked. To some degree, I had some reversibility. It actually did help with the breathing a little bit. It didn't make it go away, but I wasn't getting sick quite as often, and I was able to breathe a little bit better. I don't know how much of it was really because of the better breathing, or if it was because I was standing still long enough to use my inhaler, and that was giving me the break I needed. But I did that for about 2 years, and during that 2-year period, I did realize that things were definitely changing. I was now starting to get sick more often, and I was getting less use out of that albuterol inhaler, which I could go through an inhaler in 2 weeks. I'd be done with it. I was using it so much. And I began to develop a fear, an irrational fear of one particular thing. I'm going to show you the next slide. Any of you with lung disease, it's a bit graphic, so you might want to avert your eyes. See? Told you. That would give me a nightmare, just to see that, especially because you know there's no elevator. So you learn to cope, and you start walking slower. And you take your breath and you breathe out as you're exerting. And you do all the little tricks that they start teaching you how to do, and you start learning on your own. I mean, I was doing pursed lip breathing before I knew what pursed lip breathing was, because it just seemed to help. But things did continue to slowly slide downhill until my 35th birthday. I remember it very well. That was 1994. I was 35, which means I'm 38 now. But I was at this nice restaurant with my parents, my sister, that's my sister next to me, my former wife, and my stepdaughter. And after this really, really nice dinner, and you can tell it was sushi if you see the, oops, excuse me. Technology. There it is. Soy sauce right there. But it was my 35th birthday, having sushi and having a great time. And after we ate, I went outside with my family to walk my parents to their car. It was on the other side of the parking lot. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't walk my parents across the parking lot because I couldn't catch my breath. And they're walking across the parking lot, leaving me stranded, leaning against a stranger's car, shaking like a leaf and trying to catch my breath. And this was a big turning point for me because it's the first time that it all really came home to me, and everybody in my family saw this. I had been hiding it not just from my family and from my wife, and I'd been hiding it from myself. I was very much in denial over a long period of time. And this was the catalyst that made me go back to Dr. Huggins after 2 years and tell her, I don't have asthma. It may be asthma, but there's something else, and it's very, very serious, and it's worse and worse and worse, and it scares the hell out of me. Would you please test me for everything you can think of? And for the very first time, she really, really took me seriously. She did every test she could think of. And the very last thing she did was she had a nurse come into the room and draw some blood to, as she put it, rule out this rare genetic disease I know you don't have.